Semicolons are little pieces of punctuation, but they can have a huge impact on your style of writing and also on how people receive your writing, so it's really worth getting to grips with exactly how they work. They allow you to write persuasively, and most importantly for most of us, they allow you to keep control of your writing. And also, not many people know how to use them, so if you can use them, you always look impressive. So it's always worth having that on your writing as well. So let's look at the rule together. There is just one rule, even though people think there are lots. Actually, there's just one. Whenever you use a semicolon, you have to be able to replace it with a full stop. So if you think about a semicolon somewhere in the middle of a sentence, both sides of that sentence have to stand alone as a sentence. And that's the only rule. So many people will use a semicolon to introduce a bullet pointed list going down a page, for example, but that's not going to work because it breaks the rule. You wouldn't put a full stop there. It's also worth noting that a semicolon is soft punctuation. It's not hard punctuation like a full stop, a question mark or an exclamation mark, so you never have to have a capital letter after a semicolon. It's worth thinking for a moment about why you're getting confused about semicolons. Most people get it wrong because they don't think in terms of two complete sentences. So I'm giving you an example of somewhere where I wouldn't use a semicolon. We have one purpose, to live well. The reason I wouldn't use the semicolon there is that the second half of the sentence, to live well, doesn't really stand alone as a sentence. So I would do it in two ways. Either I'd have a colon there. A colon very often just acts like a dash. So it has a nice flow to that sentence. We have one purpose, to live well. That would be lovely. Or if you really wanted to emphasise the second part of the sentence and make more of it, then I would go for a full stop. We have one purpose. It's our fond hope that we can live well. Both of those second sentences would work very well. But now we need to think about where you would use semicolons. So if you write a very long sentence, you can often think, I'll just bung in a few semicolons, surely that'll be right. It doesn't often work because you didn't think of that huge sentence in terms of lots of little sentences. So the best way to get started is to find two short sentences. The second one amplifies the first or adds to the meaning in some way, and you then replace the full stop with a semicolon. So I've given you an example. We're thinking semicolons. It makes sense to write with semicolons. Now I could have given you no punctuation in that sentence. We're thinking semicolons. It makes sense to write in semicolons. But that's far too fast. It's quite a big thought I'm giving you there. We're thinking semicolons. It's like, do we dream in colour? It's quite a big thought. You've got to process that. Try and work out whether you do tend to think with those pauses, and then you can get into the rest of the sentence. So maybe I give you a comma. We're thinking semicolons. It makes sense to write in semicolons. A bit better, but still not enough of a pause. So I could give you a full stop. We're thinking semicolons. It makes sense to write in semicolons. The trouble is, you could have left the room after the full stop and gone and got a cup of tea. So all you would have got from my meaning was we think in semicolons, but that's not why I've written this sentence. I've written this sentence to explain why it's useful to write with semicolons. So I give you a semicolon. We think in semicolons. It makes sense to write with semicolons, trapping you into the sentence, giving you a nice big pause in the middle, so you understand what I've said first, then you understand the implications of what I said first. So give it a go. One rule to follow, read it out loud. If it sounds better with a semicolon, you've done it right.